Well, thank you, everybody. It's wonderful to be here, and it really is wonderful. Events like these are what's going to change the world, and we need a whole lot of change in case you haven't encountered that reality, and this is where the change happens. So I have nothing but appreciation for Hope and the whole team who put this wonderful event on, and all the good things are going to spread out from this is what will change this world. I've been a physician for over 45 years, and I'd like to take you through a couple of highlights in my own medical evolution to share with you some concepts that are very important to me and to all of us, and how I came to be here today. This is the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago. Is it possible to get these overhead lights off to bring the, we'll this into more contrast, please. Can you kill these top lights, possibly? Okay. Very good medical school, and back in 1968, I enrolled and studied hard, and in 1972, walked across the stage at McCormick Place. They handed me my medical degree, called me doctor for the first time, and as you can see, I haven't changed a bit. And when I left this noble institution, I was well equipped to practice modern medicine, and I thought when I got down to practice, I was going to see 6 cases of leprosy every week, 3 cases of smallpox, probably 4 of diphtheria, 2 of bubonic plague, and maybe 1 of Tsutsugamuchi fever. Been a physician 45 years. How many cases of leprosy I've seen? How many cases of smallpox? Thank God. Because diphtheria, zip. Bubonic plague, thank God, none. Still looking for my first case of Tsutsugamuchi fever. Actually, what I ran into, more than anything overwhelmingly, was Ken and his ilk. And this vast majority of doctors in primary care have Ken in their waiting room. Their offices are filled with Kens, whether they are internists, cardiologists, surgeons, pathologists, radiologists, pediatricians, rheumatologists, gastroenterologists. They're all dealing with Ken, his wife, and kids. He's overweight by 60 pounds, a couple of high blood pressure pills. He's got type 2 diabetes. He's on insulin and metformin. He's got runaway lipids. He's on statins, and is getting chest pain when he walks and cannot get an erection because his arteries to his penis are so clogged up. His blood vessels throughout his body started out like this when he was a kid, but they have developed to be this clogged up and caked up, and are creating all sorts of problems for him. When I left med school, there were things I absolutely knew. The med school I went to was the college of the way it is, man, and the truth of it is that atherosclerosis is a relentlessly progressive disease of unknown origin. We don't know why it happens, and once it develops, you can't stop it. This is absolutely gospel, and doctors still believe this today. The majority of them do. High blood pressure pills, when you put a patient on it, they will take these pills the rest of their lives. It's a lifetime treatment. It's an unknown disease. Diabetes, we don't know what causes it, but once on insulin, always on insulin. Nobody gets off insulin or any of these medications. Autoimmune diseases, the body attacks itself. We don't know why. Etiology unknown. Very strange. I got really discouraged. First 10 years in medicine. Ken and his ilk would come to my office. I didn't know what the hell to tell him. So I'd fiddle with his metformin dosage and his blood pressure pills and tell him, you really ought to lose some weight, Ken, and come back in a month, and please don't have your stroke when I'm on call. And this was my strategy. It was very frustrating medicine, and this is still the type of medicine that most primary care and specialists around the country and increasingly around the world are facing every day. They don't know what to do with him except play the pill game and hope he doesn't run into problems when they're on call. It got so distressing for me. I felt so impotent in the face of the steady stream of Kens that filled my waiting room that after 10 years in general practice, I left general practice and moved back to Vancouver, where I did my internship back to Vancouver General and became a resident in anesthesiology. I was going to become an anesthesiologist. And I was an anesthesiology resident for several years, and I found myself On the cardiovascular anesthesia service, anesthesia is a wonderful sacred dance to have the patient's life force literally in your hand. I hold it in great reverence. But day after day doing anesthesia put me in the operating room, and I watch what surgeons do. And on the cardiovascular anesthesia service, I'd put people to sleep, and the surgeon would open up their chest, and they would expose the coronary arteries, and from the coronary arteries, they would pull out this yellow, greasy guck called atherosclerosis that was clogging the patient's arteries and setting them up for heart attacks and strokes. This was a great concern to me. My dad died of clogged arteries, and I had seen my patients. I've seen them in restaurants. I've seen what they eat, all the meat and cheese, just like I was eating. And I knew I was going to be laying on that operating table, that striker saw going up my sternum if I didn't do something about this. One day I was watching the surgeon pull out a particularly slithery yellow piece of slithery guck out of an artery, and I thought to myself, that stuff looks like chicken fat. And a little voice on my shoulder said, there's a good reason why it looks like chicken fat. It is chicken fat. And pig fat and cow fat and sheep fat and the fat of every other slow animal was walking past this man's table when he had a fork in his hand. And I knew, because Dr. Dean Ornish was already doing his work on reversing heart disease with plant-based diets, and I had a good idea what I was looking at. But something else at the same time was also working on me to change my diet. I knew that this is where I was going to wind up. But there was another message. When I was a fourth-year med student at the U of I in Chicago, I spent my Saturday nights in the trauma unit at big bad old Cook County Hospital. And I saw what violence does to people. I saw the shotgun blast at close range. I saw 38 caliber Saturday night specials. I saw the machete wounds. I saw the sexual violence, the psychological violence. And it shook me to my core. I would leave that trauma unit on Sunday morning shaking. And the violence was such a powerfully destructive, pernicious process that it permeated my visions, my feelings, and I knew it was a primary disease that I needed at least to expunge from my own life. And in the subsequent years, I undertook an earnest quest to get the violence out of my own life, out of my own thoughts, and certainly out of my words and my deeds. And so I started reading all the Indian saints and Mahatma Gandhi, and really became a serious student of a nonviolent life. One truly become a man of peace. And I brought this quest up to Vancouver as an anesthesia resident, and one evening I was expressing to a dear friend of mine my desire to really get the violence out of my life, stop contributing violence to this world. It turned out, however, that I was making this righteous pontification to my friend while polishing off a 16-ounce porterhouse steak at the local Kagan Cleaver Steakhouse. And he looked at me with eyes of great compassion and said, Michael, that's all well and good that you're expressing these lovely sentiments. But if you really want to get the violence out of your life, you might want to start with that piece of animal muscle on your plate, because in fulfilling your desire for the taste of that flesh in your mouth, you are paying for the death of the animal and for the next one in line. I did most of my growing up at my uncle's dairy farm in northern Wisconsin. I knew where meat came from, but I was still sleeping that sleep that made me not really see it and open to it. And as he said this, all the classic rationales came up into my mind that I was about to speak. Well, that's what they raised them for, and the animal's dead already, it doesn't really matter, and all of that stuff. When the little voice on my shoulder said, you know, he's right. He's right. And at that point, I could not finish the steak. And from that point on, when I began, because I knew what dairy products, where they come from. We'll talk about that a little later, and the cost that inflicts. And from then on, the point of wanting to eat a piece of meat or have a piece of cheese, I would be stopped immediately from the reality of where these products come from and ask myself, am I really that hungry that I would pay to have some calf taken away from its mother, to have the mother shot in the head? It's a violent act, doctor, to be paying for this. You can't pretend you're not complicit. Pulling out that wallet and pulling out that credit card or that dollar bill is a healing act or a destructive one. And you make it several times a day, and it's up to us to choose. Didn't take long for me to look at my leather wallet and my leather shoes, and I had been raised in a Jewish household, and the stories of the Nazis making lampshades out of the skin of the Jews was still ringing in my head, and I looked at the skin making up my shoes and my leather belt and my leather wallet, and they felt absolutely ghoulish. And I went to the backyard, and I took a shovel, and I dug a hole, and I buried my leather shoes, my leather wallet, my leather belt, and I filled in the hole, and I stepped back, and I apologized to the animals, because if you don't know, you don't know. But once you know, they say, once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. And the curtain had been torn down for me. So I had no choice at that time. If I was going to be a man of integrity at all, knowing what I knew, both in the operating room and in my own heart, I adopted a plant-based diet. And I didn't even know the word vegan, but a friend of mine pointed that out to me several months later, that, oh, you've become a vegan. And I just knew carrots don't scream when you cut them. That's all I know. And so I adopted a plant-based diet, and something remarkable happened in my own body. 20-pound spare tire of fat around my waist melted away in about 8 weeks. My blood pressure had been elevated. It dropped down to 150/90. My cholesterol dropped 20 points, and I felt great waking up in a nice, light, lean body every day. And at that point, there was no turning back. And by that time, other physicians were also arriving at the same point and saying something about it. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, Dr. Joe Furman, John McDougall, Dean Ornish, Milton Mills, Michael Greger, Neil Barnard, the Doctors Campbell, all of them are saying this profound truth that if you eat dead animals, you wind up a dead animal. And you eat plants, and you wind up lean, healthy, and out of the clutches of people like me. And so it became clear. The dietitians stepped forward, George Eisman, Brenda Davis, Anna Molina, they wrote these wonderful books on becoming vegan, becoming vegetarian. Jeff Novick, Jack Norris, they do credit to their professions as dietitians, where most of the dietitians are mouthing the party line from the meat and dairy industry. These folks have the courage to stand up and say a plant-based diet is by far the healthiest. After many years, I took a position at True North Health Center here in Santa Rosa, and people come with all sorts of medical conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, clogged arteries, colitis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, etc. We put them on a healthy plant-based diet, and these diseases get better in front of our eyes. Made the lines from George Gershwin, the composer, and in his opera Porgy and Bess, he wrote a song, and the title just said it all. It ain't necessarily so, all that stuff that I had been told in med school. And the truth is, all these truths that I had been definitely told is the way it is, not true. None of these statements are true. And the reason why all these diseases are happening is not a relentless progressive disease. These are all eminently reversible. They had to have an honest look about what Ken's really eating. And I ask every patient, take me through your eating day. What do you have? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Tell me what you ate for yesterday. And Ken, bless his heart, good old fast food guy. And a reality check. When you eat a whole food plant-based diet like you're eating here and should be eating at home, you have lovely salads and steam-fried veggies and potatoes, etc. And if I were to sneak up on you with a needle and a syringe an hour later after this meal and draw a tube of blood and let it set for an hour in a glass tube, the red clot goes to the bottom, the liquid part of the blood goes to the top, and this is what your blood should look like, crystal clear. You can read newsprint through normal serum. But You have a burgers, fries, and a shake, or a pizza, or fried chicken, any of the classic foods that we're eating these days, and all the heavy fats from the beef and the cheese, the egg yolks, the saturated fat in the egg yolks and the mayonnaise, the vegetable oil and the fries, the butter fat in the milk, all this fat oozes out into the blood. And for the next 5 hours, your blood, now not everybody shows it this optically densely, but everybody has a wave of fat that goes through their bloodstream after you eat. How could it be otherwise? And it stays this way for 5 hours. It's called lipemia. It means fat in the bloodstream. There's a classic study where they gave someone a fatty meal at hour 0, and they drew blood every hour for 5 hours, and they took those blood tubes and put them one after another into an instrument that measures how milky the blood is looking, how fatty the appearance is, the lactescence index. You see the blood getting fattier and fattier and fattier and fattier. It takes about 5 hours for the liver to begin to clear it out of there. Well, think of how most Americans eat. Not most people in this room, I know. But most folks can, and all his friends and relatives, bacon, eggs, or an egg McMuffin for breakfast. And for the next 5 hours, their blood runs thick with fat. And during this time, it's clogging their arteries, it's layering out on their fat stores, it's clogging up their insulin receptors, setting them up for diabetes. It's changing their hormone levels, setting them up for breast cancer, prostate cancer. Takes the liver about 5 hours to clear all this fat out of the blood, and just in time for lunch, and to send another wave of fat through the bloodstream. Blood stays fatty all afternoon, causing all this damage to organ systems throughout the body. Takes the liver about dinner time to begin to clear it out of there, just in time to visit the colonel and send another wave of fat through the bloodstream. And the blood stays fatty all evening till about 10 o'clock at night. Till on the way back to the bedroom, you stop and send another wave of fat through the bloodstream. People go to bed like that. And the reality is most people are keeping their blood fatty all day. The stuff never clears out of the bloodstream. You keep your blood fatty 40, 50 years. Can you be shocked when all sorts of nasty conditions happen? Because there's more than just fat in that blood. There is a witch's brew of health-damaging molecules that make the blood thicker, that clog insulin receptors, that stiffen your arteries, set off autoimmune diseases, age your tissues, promote atherosclerosis and inflammation, and bring in toxins throughout the body. All of that is in this blood after a meal like this, day after day, month after month, year after year. No wonder we're becoming so obese and sick. The problem, of course, instead of a healing nature of the blood that's flowing through your tissues, you create a fiery, oxidation-filled bloodstream, and it damages tissues throughout the body. But the good news from the world of plant-based nutrition, instead of pouring this through your bloodstream every day, this is, if you make an analogy to a river, there's a polluted river, and you're sending it through your tissues hour after hour, month after month, year after year. But you change to a plant-based diet, and it's like sending a clean, cleansing river through your bloodstream. It's a bit of a hokey analogy, I guess. But the pure water in this river, the healing water in this river, is the water in the fruits and vegetables. That's what you want to wash through your tissues, meal after meal, week after week, month after month. And if you do so, then healing happens. A newer, leaner, healthier body emerges. And the heavy, hypertensive, diabetic, inflamed, atherosclerotic person fades in the rearview mirror. Your body resculpts itself into a healthy one. It's a remarkable process to see. I'm privileged to witness it every day at our clinic, and it's a miracle every person can do in their own home with their knife and fork. Hippocrates had it right on a level that we're only beginning to understand. If people are interested in doing plant-based diets really well, or if you try to do a plant-based diet and it hasn't worked for you, there are reasons why that might be happening. I invite you to go to my website, drklaper.com, and watch my webinar, Thriving on a Plant-Based Diet. And I want to take you through all the pitfalls that may trip you up there and make healthy plant-based eating very simple and delicious and easy. Okay. But this food, whole plant foods, are filled with all these lovely phytonutrients you're aware of. They are antioxidants. They neutralize the free radicals that are flowing through the tissues. And this is the dangerous process. The process that allows these plaques to build up. Meal after meal of a healthy diet will allow this thin membrane to reestablish itself. The plaque starts melting away and arteries open up. It's a remarkable thing as the inside lining of the cells of the blood vessels heal all over the body. And this is a famous picture by now from Dr. Esselstyn, but you see here's a left anterior descending coronary artery, now all clogged up in a man who had terrible angina, went on a whole food plant-based diet, and 23 months later, same artery. You can see the plaques reverse and you can see the flow return. This is blood flow in the heart and before a plant-based diet, after a plant-based diet, and blood vessels all over the body open up. And Ken and his wife now have a rollicking sex life. And studies are now replete in the literature. Back in 1977, Frey Ellis reported a man with severe angina had to stop every 9 or 10 paces, started on a vegan diet. A year later, the pain is much improved, and 18 months later, he's climbing mountains in the Lake District with no angina pain. Here's Dean Ornish's study clearly showing that heart disease can be reversed. And if you or anyone else that you know is struggling with clogged arteries, please get Dr. Esselstyn's book, Preventing and Reversing Heart Disease. Follow his recommendations to the letter, and you too will have your arteries open up and leave all this pain and fear behind. Not only do we see clogged arteries open up, but the standard animal-based diet is very pro-inflammatory. You get folks on a whole food plant-based diet, plus or minus a fast beforehand, and it cools off hot and inflamed. No, don't do that. Cools off hot, inflamed joints. It's the most powerful therapy for not only rheumatoid arthritis, but lupus, ankylosing spondylitis, all these autoimmune diseases respond. So at True North, we use a whole food plant-based diet with or without water fasting, and we predictably see improvements in inflammatory disease, asthma, migraine, headaches stop. They're from the diet, and a healthy diet abolishes them. Why? When I went to medical school in the Pleistocene age, I was taught that nutrition's real simple. All you need to know is that carbohydrates, sugars are burned for energy, proteins are for structures and enzymes in the body, and fats are to get you through times of famine to store energy. That's it. That's all you need to know. Have some every day, you'll be fine. Well, this is a ridiculously antique, antiquated view, and the truth is that our food is chemically alive. Every meal that you eat, within minutes, is flowing through your tissues. Every cell in your body is bathed from the nutrients from everything you eat. And in every one of your cells, your DNA is unfolded. And the nutrients from that meal wash through your cells and plays your DNA like a piano, and turns genes on and turns genes off, that turn enzymes on and turn enzymes off. The food you eat determines who you are on a cellular level. The science is called nutrigenomics, and it's the study of how food affects us. And we realize that, well, you don't have to be a geneticist to understand that the genes are going to be turned on by this fuel mixture with all these contaminants, and the proteins and enzymes they create is going to be much different than the proteins and enzymes created by whole plant foods that are rich in all these stabilizing phytonutrients. The food not only contains nutrients, it contains information. So, your food stream runs through your tissues like a river, turning genes on and off in every cell. What's the quality of that river? Again, if it is an animal-based processed food diet, that river is a polluted one, and it leaves you where Baxter Montgomery, the cardiologist from Houston, drew this lovely picture. The trunk of the tree is bad nutrition, and all the evil fruits that it spawns, the heart failure, obesity, diabetes, headaches, allergies, hypertension, they're all coming from the same root. It's the classic blind man and the elephant. Several months ago, I gave a talk to a mixed medical audience. There were hundreds of physicians there of every different specialty. And I said, colleagues, I care not If you are a cardiologist, an internist, a surgeon, a rheumatologist, gastroenterologist, dermatologist, pediatrician, radiologist, pathologist, when you open the door on your waiting room tomorrow morning, the vast majority of people sitting in those chairs waiting to see you are there because they're sick from what they've been eating. Stop looking for these subtle genetic variations on chromosome 821. It's the classic blind man and the elephant. And the rheumatologist has a hold of the leg. Oh, the elephant's like a trunk. And the surgeon's got the hold of the tail. Oh, it's like a snake. And the dermatologist has the ears. Oh, the elephant's like a fan. The same toxic diet is bubbling up through all the systems, all the organ systems. And each one is going to erupt or react in its own special way, and they're going to see these different diseases. And the dermatologist is going to see the psoriasis, and the cardiologist is going to see the clogged arteries, and the internist is going to see the diabetes, and the endocrinologist is going to see autoimmune diseases, and the rheumatologist is going to see inflammatory joint disease, and the gastroenterologist is going to see colitis and Crohn's disease. They're all looking at the same disease. So much so that in my practice, in my office, when people sit in front of me, high blood pressure, diabetes, clogged up, obese, doctor, why am I like this? Is it my genes? I've given the same answer so often I've had a plaque made up in my office. It's the food. It's been the food all along. It's a matter of getting that message out, and that's why meetings like this are so important. And when people adopt a whole food, plant-based diet, all these irreversible, relentless diseases I was taught never go away, they go away. And the blood pressure comes down, and the arteries unclog, and the obesity melts away, and the diabetes fades away, and the autoimmune diseases settle down. It was the food all along. And get them on a healthy diet, and the body knows how to heal itself. By the way, it's become known as the standard American diet, this fast food, meat and dairy-based diet. But I'll tell you, this is an obsolete term now, because the American diet has metastasized around the world, and everyone's becoming obese. You go to China, you go to India, you see obese people now everywhere. And so because it's no longer it's not a standard American diet. This is what happens when people get rich and move to the cities, off the farms and into the cities. They get in this condition, and so much so that the truth is this is the diet of affluence. And I like this term because the acronym, of course, for diet of affluence is DOA, right? Now, while we are talking about foods that make up the DOA diet, I must take a moment and address you folks who are still consuming dairy products in this audience. And we're told, oh, they're nature's perfect food, best source of calcium. And women are terrified to not eat yogurt or cheese because where are you going to get calcium? Well, your bones are going to fall apart. So they eat this thinking it's healthy. It's white, it must be pure. Reality check, folks. I grew up on a dairy farm. The purpose of cow's milk, really, is to turn a 65-pound calf into a 700-pound cow as rapidly as possible. Cow's milk is baby calf growth fluid. That's what the stuff is. And everything in that white liquid, the hormones, the lipids, the sodium, the protein, IGF-1, everything is there to blow that calf up to a great big cow, or it wouldn't be there. And whether you pour it on your cereal as a liquid, whether you churn it into butter, whether you coagulate it into yogurt, whether you ferment it into cheese, whether you add sugar and freeze it into ice cream, it's baby calf growth fluid. If you're trying to lose weight, these do that. But very importantly, cow's milk is the lactation secretion of a large bovine mammal that just had a baby. That's why she's given that milk. And like all mother's milk, it's full of estrogens. And it is especially so because, thanks to modern dairying, she is already pregnant with her next calf. So every container of Greek yogurt and every package of mozzarella cheese you pull off the shelf has been made from milk of a pregnant cow. The estrogen content of this stuff is through the roof. This is a scary study. They gave 7 men, 6 children, 5 women 2 glasses of milk to drink and collected their urine every 15 minutes. Within 15 minutes, their urine is pouring with estrone, progesterone, estradiol, estriol, pregnanediol. These are potent mammalian estrogens. These are not the puny little phytoestrogens in soy. These are official mammalian estrogens. The testosterone level in the boys and men significantly dropped. Surprise, eating a bunch of estrogens. What do you think is going to happen? Conclusions. The data on men and children indicate estrogens in milk are absorbed and testosterone level decrease. Sexual maturation of prepubertal children could be affected by ordinary intake of cow's milk. You think? Why are little girls going through puberty at age 8 and 9 and 10? Could have something to do with this river of milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt filled with cow estrogens. They're pouring down their gullet day after day. Told, be given to them at school. Drink the stuff, eat the stuff. It's good for you. Not only do they have to confront their sexuality at age 8 or 9, but you follow them into womanhood, they get a nasty incidence of breast cancer because they've been stimulating their breast tissue with estrogen since infancy, since the bottle with the cow formula has estrogens in it. Get your mammograms, ladies. Why do American women get all these breast lumps? Not normal, not natural. Go to rural China, you'll see women with breast lumps. Go to rural Vietnam, you'll see women with breast lumps. Yet. When the American diet metastasizes over there, you'll see them. But it's not normal physiology. But eat more milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt. You used to have some more estrogens, ladies. And then, oh, how did I get this? Published in the prestigious medical journal called Duh. The female breast is not the only breast that responds. Gentlemen, the male breast responds. Guys eating their deep dish pizzas and their cheese nachos, and they look down, hey, where do I get these man boobs from? Fella, you're eating cow estrogens. What the hell you think is going to happen? And every 100th case of breast cancer is in a man. Didn't used to be that way. Have another nacho, guys. These estrogens make the prostate gland unstable. Men who eat dairy products get more prostate cancer, and because it's filled with this most potent growth factor known in biology, it's like growth factor 1, you got a little prostate cancer and you're eating cheese and ice cream, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. These guys die harder, faster deaths from their prostate cancer if they're eating dairy. Women who eat dairy products get more ovarian cancer. The estrogens stimulate their uterus, and they spit out these fibroid tumors that make them bleed and get anemic, and they need hysterectomies. They don't do hysterectomies for fibroids in rural Vietnam yet. It's baby calf growth fluid, not fit for human beings. And all that was just from the fat and the hormones. The protein's not friendly either. It's a major contributor to acne. After the talk, do a little search on dairy and acne, and your screen will fill up with studies. The beta-lactalbumin turns on a gene called TORC1 that creates a very acidic oil in the oil glands and sets off the acne comedones. And they found it in the young guys down in the weight room pumping iron for getting on the wrestling team. And after the workout, what do you got to do? Oh, I got to eat my protein shake. And they throw in 100 grams of whey protein and bolt it down. And their skin erupts. Oh, but not my cheese. Can't give up my cheese. Anything but my cheese. Cheese is congealed fermented butterfat. Filled with cow proteins and estrogens and growth hormones, and it smells like dirty socks. And look at it, call it by its real name. That's congealed fermented butterfat, and it's going to make me fat and sick. It's baby calf growth fluid. These do that. I can recognize the dairy eaters when they walk in my office. I see their bloated face and their thick bull necks and their bovine appearance. They're easy to pick. Oh, absolutely. If you can talk some sense into them, Within 12 weeks of stopping the dairy product, you see it. Their jaw lines emerge, the weight drops off, and these lovely necklines appear. Eating baby calf growth fluid, not eating baby calf growth fluid. Even Khloe Kardashian knows that. And another point, especially for the women in this audience, about where milk really comes from. This is the purpose of cow's milk, to nurse a baby calf for several weeks after it's born. How do you make a baby calf? Basic biology. You need the sperm of a bull fertilizing the egg of a cow. Where do you get the sperm of a bull? Find a bull and masturbate him. There's a whole industry on harvesting bull sperm before they shoot the bull in the head. Then they take that tube of semen and they lock the female cow up in the stanchion. They come up behind her and they ram the semen up into her uterus. I've seen this dozens of times on the farm. No cow appreciates, no female animal I know anywhere appreciates having to be forcefully impregnated. The cow carries that calf for 9 months, just like a human mother does. She gives birth to a 65-pound calf. Whew, boy, I've delivered 9-pounders. Boy, 65-pounders must be some labor. But this is the wonderful product of that process. But to the dairy producer, this is the enemy. This is sucking off the profits. That dairy producer, I will not dignify him with the name farmer, that dairy producer wants all that milk for himself, so within 48 hours that calf is taken away and put into the veal pen. The most painful, poignant memories I carry in my auditory cortex are the sounds of a mother cow locked up in a stanchion in the barn with her newly born calf 10 yards away in the veal pen. And she bellows hour after hour after hour. It goes on for days, the most heart-rending, soul-tearing bellows, because just had her baby taken away from her. If you think these animals don't feel, just listen to that for a couple hours. It makes it very clear. This is the reality of modern dairying. No matter what the clover signs tell you about the happy cows and out in the pastures there, this is modern dairying. These animals ride the merry-go-round of misery, have the milk sucked off of them continuously. All of them are new mothers who've had their calf taken away. Every single one of them are new mothers, and they are pregnant with their next calf, and that milk is being sucked off of them. What happens to them? Dairy cows would normally live 25 years. No dairy cow dies of old age. Within 4 years of milk and calves being sucked off her, the milk production goes down. It's picked up immediately by the computer. It's now a drain on the farmer's grain supplies. He calls the truck from the slaughterhouse, comes, picks her up. They take her to the slaughterhouse, shoot her in the head, hang her up, and strip the flesh off her bones. The flesh of old dairy cows is not very appetizing in the meat case. People don't buy it, so they grind it up into ground beef and turn it into hamburgers. And the truth is, you go to McDonald's and order a Big Mac, you go to Burger King, order a Whopper, what you're eating is ground up old dairy cows. That is what is the fast food industry doing. They're serving old ground up dairy cows. It is a necessary part of the dairy industry. People say, oh, milk is white and they don't have to kill the cow. It's a slaughter industry. The dairy barn is a short slopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse for 4 or 5 years of calves and milk, but have no illusion that white product has blood all over its hands. The boy calves are no use to dairy farmer. They'll never give milk. They're chained for 16 weeks until they are hung up. They're in the veal pen till they are hung up by their heels, have their throats cut, and sold as milk-fed veal, an inevitable part of the dairy industry. This is a grievous injury to the sisterhood. These are all insults of the female of the species. It's the women. It's the females who get forcibly impregnated. These tears going down this mother's face are real tears. It is the dairy barn is one of the saddest places on earth. She just had her baby taken away, and she's sitting there having this all this milk sucked off her. Every container of Greek yogurt you buy, you are paying for this. Every pizza with mozzarella on it, you are paying for this. And we cannot pretend we're not complicit. Oh, take another calf away from his mother. I'll have another pizza. Again, the question reflects to you and all of us. Are you really that hungry? Where you would rather have the mozzarella or the diet cheese? It makes all the difference in the world to these sentient creatures. So what do you do with dairy products? What I tell my patients, I tell them, look in the mirror. If you look in the mirror and you see this, then enjoy your milk and cheese. But if you don't see this when you look in the mirror, there is so much else to pour on your cereal and to pour on your raspberries for dessert instead of ice cream. There's so much else these days. No one's saying they're super healthy. They're all vegetable oil and sugar and water. They're all junk in their way. But they don't have the hormones and the growth factors and leukemia viruses and all the pesticides and herbicides and the contaminants that accumulate in cow's milk. And there's no cruelty involved. So, the things I know have all been replaced by what Hippocrates was telling us 2,500 years ago. You know, they say you can't keep a hat pin in a cloth bag for very long. The point comes out. Yeah? And the truth of animal-based, meat and dairy-based diets versus plant-based diets is finally coming out. It's the food, it's the food, it's the food. People say, well, it's my genetics. Truth is, genetics may load the gun, but it's your diet and your lifestyle that pulls the trigger. You may have colon cancer in your family. You may have lupus in your family, but whether it really appears in your body is going to be determined by what you put down your throat and how you live your life. There's now lots of good news. Kaiser is now promoting plant-based diets. Medicare is paying for the Ornish program. There's an international conference on plant-based nutrition in Anaheim. I'll be speaking at that in September. The Plantition Project will help you find plant-based docs. Lights are going on all over. There are now hospitals that are growing food and feeding to their patients. It's exciting. People in individual communities. Here's Dr. Mike Nelson, a dentist up in Reading. Once a month they bring in speakers or show videos and then have potlucks. Anybody can work to get the word out. And meat consumption in America is decreasing, though around the world it's increasing. I was speaking in Australia a few months ago, and Dr. Malcolm Mackay is spreading the word there. It's happening in Sydney. You don't have to be a health professional to spread the word about healthy nutrition. There are all sorts of wonderful media available now. Planned Pure Nation, Forks Over Knives, Police see this. And the folks in Cowspiracy who asked the question, if an animal-based diet is the driving force behind all this environmental destruction, why aren't the environmental organizations saying anything about it? The same producers came back to my office a few months later and said, we're doing another film asking the same questions as the medical profession. If an animal-based diet is driving all these degenerative diseases, clogged arteries, high blood pressure, diabetes, why aren't the doctors saying anything about this? I walked up one side, down the other of that question, and it wound up in the film. The film is called What the Health, and it's going to be released this fall. Please look for it and see it and show it in your neighborhood there. And speaking of big changes, even Ken got on a whole food plant-based diet, and within 12 weeks he dropped on 24 pounds. He got off his blood pressure and diabetes pills and is off his insulin. But the most important thing is what an animal-based diet is doing to this planet. I am working for these folks. The kids and the animals are my most important patients and the earth that they live upon. The paleo folks saying, oh, we ought to eat meat 3 times a day. That's the healthiest diet. Everybody should be eating that. What are they talking about? A flesh-based meal 3 times a day for 9 billion people. What are they talking about? It'll destroy this planet. The majority of environmental destruction. Pick an environmental disaster. Deforestation, soil erosion, water depletion, water pollution, pesticide spraying, greenhouse gas emission, all of them are being driven by the industrial production of animal flesh. Every one of us. Why the forests are being cut down. That's why the soil is eroding. It's where the water, especially in this state, is growing to grow alfalfa for animals. That's the pesticides are polluting the water for being sprayed on corn and soybean fields, and they are all driving climate change. You can read about it in the UN report, Livestock's Long Shadow, read it in John Robbins' Diet for New America. And I urge you, if you care at all about this subject, of how a meat-based diet is affecting the planet, go to Dr. Richard Oppenlander's site called Comfortably Unaware and read this book. You can download it and read it. It will change your life. It is the authoritative work on this. Should be required reading for everyone. For the taste of flesh, the ice caps are melting. This bear is on this iceberg because of our cheeseburger lust. We are clear-cutting the ocean for fish that we don't need to be eating. The time to stop eating animals has come, as Oppenlander is saying. All plans to mitigate climate change are doomed to fail, as are we as a species, if they do not include the cessation of producing and eating animals. Bottom line, that we have run out of time to do that. It's going to destroy the planet. No, it won't. We're going to save billions in health care and environmental damage. It's going to mitigate the trillions of dollars we're going to be spending on rising sea levels. It costs nothing to make this change, and it can be done now. Well, you're going to drive the farmers off the land. No. Build 2 less aircraft carriers and take those trillions of dollars and pay the farmers to grow broccoli instead of meat. We need some magic. Magic, of course, comes in the form of young people on the internet. Young people young people have some advantages, despite their irreverence and complete ignorance of any history being more than 20 years ago. They have no allegiance to the past, which is a benefit given the reality of the past. Here is Lila Crawford. She asked me to come down to Los Angeles to address the school board about getting plant-based milks and other plant products into the LA school board. And I was glad to testify on her behalf, and she's 15 years old, and it makes it happen. We need to make meat eating as uncool as smoking and wearing fur. Now, we've seen magic happen before. I grew up with the Berlin Wall as a reality. It was never going to come down, right? Well, 1989 was startling rapidity. We saw that come down within days. If magic can happen, it can happen quickly. Everybody can do something. Well, I'm not a doctor. What can I do? You can watch Forks Over Knives. You can invite a bunch of friends over and watch in your own home. Have plant-based potlucks. Put the food in their mouths. A taste is worth 1,000 words. Excuse me, a lovely food here makes that point. Pass out literature any place you can. Start a whole food plant-based diet support group, discussion group, online or in your house. Attend or sponsor a VegFest. So I'll leave you with a poem by Edgar Guest, if you're feeling overwhelmed, called It Couldn't Be Done. Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't. But he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled a thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one has ever done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled a thing that couldn't be done. And he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just starting to sing as you tackle a thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. The most important thing is education. Let's get the word out by your example and by what you do and what you say, and let's change this world, and we'll make a better world for all of us, including the animals. There's a wonderful campaign now going on in Times Square, New York, called Be Fair, Be Vegan. They have taken billboards around downtown Times Square, and they are showing these amazing animals looking right in the eye, saying, which of these wonderful chicks will die for your omelet. And it's a very, very powerful campaign. You're going to be seeing more and more of it. My friend Joaquin Phoenix is sponsoring it. There's lots of hope, but it requires every one of us to act. So thank you, Hope, for the invitation. Thank all of you. Let's get it done.
Dr. Michael Klaper, thank you so much.